Hello, my friends. It is Wednesday, and I am just now getting to start this weekly reading vlog. This has been a week of frustration in terms of reading, in terms of life. Just been a variety of stuff going on. Good and fine and, normal. Just life. But in terms of reading, frustration. Let's see, today is June 4th, yes? We are 4 days into June, and like I've been doing every month this year, and like I've been doing every month this year, it seems, I'm still finishing my May reads. I don't know why that frustrates me so much. Why is that frustrating? It doesn't really make any difference. Doesn't really matter if I read it in May or June, if I'm reading what I want to read. I think the thing is, because there are so many books out there that I do want to read and that I'm anxious to get to, but I feel like I'm stuck reading the books that I'm reading, even if I'm enjoying them. I think it's stupid. So I'm trying to just release the frustration and just enjoy what I'm reading and balance all of the various aspects of my life and not just, sit down and read, which is all that I really want to do. But that's not true. It's not actually all I really want to do. There are many other aspects of my life, many other things, responsibilities that I have, many other things that I enjoy doing and want to do. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm still finishing up my May books. That's the whole point here. And it's frustrating me, but I'm trying not to let it, because I think that's dumb. So, I am reading Mountain Laurel is what I'm really focusing on, by Laurie Benton. And it's really long. There's 50 some chapters in it, I think. I don't know how many pages. I'm reading it on Kindle, but I know it just feels like it's taking a really long time to read. And I don't know that the pacing of it is just that slow. And it's not even that it's just that boring, truthfully. It's just taking so stinking long to read. And as I'm reading it, I'm wondering if in the end I'm going to find it worth it. I think that's part of it, because at this point in the story, we are 80% of the way through. I have 20% left. And our main character in the story, Ian, he seems to be an interesting mix of a couple of different Bible stories. The prodigal son being one of them, perhaps, or Abraham, in particular as regards the story of Sarah and Hagar. There's definitely a huge thread of that running. And then there's hints of Jacob and Leah, Jacob and Rachel. It's not any of those things. It's just hints of that seeming to be here. And I say all of that to say he's not a very, well, it's not that he's not likable. It's just that he keeps doing stupid things. He keeps doing all of the wrong things. And as the reader, you are reading it and you're like, no. Oh, ooh, okay. No, not that. No, oh, okay. Oh, that, okay. That was really dumb. So, he's a little frustrating. But a frustrating character has never been, okay, I don't want to say never, is not normally a reason for me to finish a book. And still I want to find out what is happening. I feel sure there's going to be a significant development, a wonderful redemption arc. But at this point, I'm wondering how that's going to happen. And I sort of feel like we've got ourselves stuck in a situation where in order to fix it, to end in a happy way, there's going to have to be some contriving going on. And I just don't know how I feel about that. So I'm not sure in the end if it's going to be worth all the time I am investing in it, but I do want to read the next one in this series, Shiloh. That's on my plan for June, and I do want to read it. So I don't know. 80% in and the jury's still out as to how I feel and or will feel about this book. I'm sensing the potential for really deep things and for like, wow, that was really good. I'm also sensing the potential for, I spent a week of my life reading this. Why? So that's where I'm at with that one. And I have not had as much time as I would have thought to finish reading the Jane Austen biography, although I'm very close. I don't have an awful lot left, just a few chapters, but I've really been focused on the time that I have had to read on Mountain Laurel. And I think this week I've only read like one chapter of the Jane Austen biography. So I definitely want to be finished with those soon so I can start my June reading, because I have a couple of buddy reads that I want to get started on. And I think that the people who are buddy reading with me are just waiting for me to finish these books. So I really want to get started on those and all the other books that I want to read in June. They're just calling me and they're beckoning me. First, I want to finish these because I also want to read these. I want to read all the things and I want to have them read. Anyway, this is not really making a great deal of sense. This is very rambly, but hopefully some of you will be able to sympathize with me or empathize. And maybe some of you just think I'm ridiculous. That's okay, because I sort of think that myself. So that's what is going on in my life. This evening, I canceled my normal Wednesday evening routine of things that I normally do. And I'm staying home with my younger son who is sick, who missed his official last day of school. Their last academic day was last week, but they had exams this week. And today was the last day. He was supposed to take a math exam, but he was sick. So he's going to have to take that on Monday, unfortunately. And so he's doing okay. He's not like terribly sick, but he did have a low-grade fever, so he couldn't go into school. Tomorrow is our closing ceremony that kind of just wraps up the whole school year for everyone but the seniors who will have their graduation on Saturday. So all that to say, I have had a lot of time this evening, and so I've made it from like 55 to 80% in the book. So I've done a decent amount of reading the past couple of hours. And I'm hoping to get a little bit more read in that one tonight. I'm hoping to finish it. And then I can finish the Jane Austen biography in the next day or two with having more time at home. But I also have I need to do some housework. I need to do some planning out for my summer, the things I need to do besides reading, even if I don't have other responsibilities going on the next couple of days. So I can't just read all the time, but I definitely will try to get a lot of reading done in the next few days. So we will see what happens over the course of the next few days. I, at the very least, plan to finish these 2 books and start my actual June reading and see if we can get that going. So that's what's happening here in my reading world. And hopefully I will check in with you tomorrow. And hopefully I will have finished Mountain Laurel and have more concrete thoughts about it. Today is Thursday, and ladies and gentlemen, we have finished the school year. This morning was our closing ceremony, wherein I completed all of my final responsibilities and duties for this school year. And the summer stretches out ahead of me beautifully. So, last night, I used my free time to read, and I did indeed finish reading Mountain Laurel by Laurie Benton. And I have some mixed thoughts about that. All in all, I really appreciate what the author was doing there, which, if you were interested, she has a review up on Goodreads, which I don't normally like it when authors review and or rate their own books, but it's not so much a rating. She may have put a star rating, I don't remember, but it's not so much a review of her book as a little background information as to why she wrote it and her reasons behind aspects of the story, which I really appreciated. And
it's funny because as I was reading it, I was thinking to myself, okay, this main character guy, Ian Cameron, in another story, he would be possibly like the antagonist or the bad guy. Not necessarily a villain. He didn't do anything villainous per se, but he did continually make some really poor choices that affected other people. So if the story were told from, let's say there's another character, her name is Shona. If the story had been told strictly from her perspective, he would definitely have been the antagonist or the bad guy in her story. I thought that was very interesting because I thought to myself, this author, Laurie Benton, she is taking us into the heart and mind of someone who is continually making poor choices and just kind of examining the why and wherefore of it. And I actually really, really enjoy and can appreciate a book that does that. Especially if there is a redemptive arc, which there is in this one. It wasn't as fully satisfying, I guess, as maybe it could have been. The crucial key moment was maybe a little bit unrealistic per se, but in all, that part was well done for the most part. So I really appreciate that. I know that having a main character who is doing a lot of dumb things and making a lot of dumb choices is not many people's cup of tea. But I do think that books like that, particularly if the author is not glorifying their reader, if the author is writing this character in such a way that they are doing really dumb things and making poor choices, and we're supposed to approve of them as the reader, if we're supposed to applaud them as the reader, if we are supposed to be like, oh, this is normal, this is great, this is good. That's not the sort of book that should be read widely or appreciated. But when the author is examining the thoughts and intents of the heart of someone who is not necessarily a good person, but is examining what is making them, why they're making the choices that they're making, the motivations behind their choices. And then also, I really like it when they have that redemptive arc, particularly if it's the main character of the story. I think that can be really well done, and I think it's a really powerful story and a really powerful way to tell a story. I think it's very helpful for us to be able to understand the motivations and mindset of a person who behaves foolishly or even sometimes cruelly. I kind of like the books that tackle that, looking at the situation from that angle, rather than a book which can end up being a lot more shallow, of just looking at a situation where the main character always does the right thing or always learns quickly from their mistakes and is, generally 95% a good person, just with, that one little baby flaw that easily gets resolved within the course of the story. It's a much more genuine and honest look at a person than that this book is, Mountain Laurel, I mean. So I really appreciated it from that aspect of it. It's not always pleasant to read through the choices that he made. Like I said, there were times when I was like, no, it's a bit of an emotional ride for sure. Half the time you're like, what is wrong with you? Oh my goodness, stop. There's a little bit of that going on for sure. But still, I think she did a good job of digging into these motivations, and the resolution of the story wasn't fully pleasing. And I think the biggest thing that I dislike about the story is that she set it up such as, in order to really come to a good final conclusion, she's going to have to contrive to kill a character off. There's just no other solution. It's just going to have to happen that way. So in order to get, the ending, that a satisfying ending. Now, there's 3 books in this series. This is only the first one. I will be reading the second one, Shiloh, next. I already know some things about where the story's going to go at that point. And I'm pretty sure what I suspect will happen is going to happen. But that's the only part I don't feel fully satisfied about. That I know this one character is going to get killed off at some point in the second book. I'm quite sure. There's no other way to continue with the story in a satisfactory way. But even that is a little bit unsatisfactory, because it's well, what did they deserve? What did they do to deserve getting killed off? They didn't really. So I don't like that as much. And I don't know if the story could have been written any other way. I don't have any suggestions on that. on that score. So, it's not like I could do a better job or anything, but that's the only thing that kind of doesn't quite sit well with me. I know that there are a lot of people who, cracking open this book and reading, wouldn't like it for those reasons. There's another thing that I want to mention, but it's going to be a little spoilery. So if you intend to ever read this book, then maybe skip ahead. But I feel like it's fair to mention. I'll try to be as non-spoilery as I can be. But it is this. This story does have some, for lack of a better word, polygamy in it. Now, it's unintentional, if that makes sense. And it's also, it's complicated and a little fuzzy, okay? And I can't say more without spilling beans that don't need to be spilled. But I just do want to warn readers ahead of time that that's in there. It's the result of poor, impulsive, selfish choices on the part of our main character. And it's not something that is painted in any sort of good light. There are complications as a result. It's a very realistic, the situation that it sets up to an extent. And it does definitely portray reality of life as it happened on plantations in the South. But I know that a lot of readers will not like that. I do think, however, that it didn't bother me because of the way that it was handled. If something like that, or like adultery or whatever, is presented in a book as being okay or normal or excused in one way or another, if it's portrayed that way, then I'm out. Like, the book is not for me. But it wasn't done that way in this story. It was handled well. It was not portrayed in any way positively, and it was quite obviously the result of poor choices. It was just, part of how the story worked itself out. So anyway, there's that in the story. So, the one other thing I didn't like was that there was just a lot, so that it ended up having a little bit of an edge of melodramatic soap opera-esque to it. So it just ended up being a little bit over the top for me. A little too much going on in the storyline. Maybe a little bit less would have been better and still driven home the same point. But I'm saying all of these things and it makes it sound like I didn't really love it. But the truth is, I did actually enjoy it. In the end, it really made me think. I really appreciated the way that she was sharing the bad guy story, so to speak, and his come to Jesus moment and his redemption arc. I actually can really appreciate that about it. To me, that was a positive aspect to the story and not a negative one. There were just a few things about it, the melodrama and the way she set up the one situation with only one way out of it, that I'm not sure that I love about it. But at the same time, overall, I'm enjoying it and I'm looking forward to reading the next one. And my only other complaint would be that it did feel a little long, but that may have just been me in my impatient desire just to get something done. The pacing is a little bit slow. So knowing that going into it, I think is helpful. It's not a fast-paced story per se that's going to keep you on your toes. And today, this afternoon, I actually finished reading Jane Austen. So my summer has off to a fantastic start. I am finally crossing my May books off my list. And I guess this year, the theme of this year has been that each month starts like on the second week of the month. So, I'm going from the second week of May to the first week of June. That's my month of May. Apparently, that's how it's going. Anyway, so I finished my last May book, and that is Jane Austen, A Life by Claire Tomalin. And it was definitely better than the biography that I read by Lucy Worsley last year. It was much better researched. It was had a lot more information about Jane and her family and their neighbors and their communities and all of that kind of stuff. And it was much better researched and more accurately researched. However, it did have, as I talked about in my last weekly reading vlog, it did have some moments of opinion that I just disagreed with. I strongly disliked all the chapters where she went into an analysis of Jane Austen's books, because I felt like we read totally different books. She had even though clearly she loves Jane Austen as an author and she loves the books, she had such a negative view on how the stories played out in almost all of them. I didn't quite understand what she liked about them. Maybe she didn't like them. She just wanted to write a biography about an author that she didn't like. Maybe. I don't know. But anyways, I was not really appreciating her literary analysis because it was very much a modern literary analysis, and I usually find that it's ridiculous. So that's just me. Didn't appreciate that part about it. And her occasional foray into opinions that she was reading too much into it. Sarah from the channel Sarah Collar, she commented on my last video. She made an excellent point that she took Jane too seriously, and she wasn't aware of all of Jane's irony and sarcasm. And I noticed that too. And that's a huge part, I think, of why her opinions just were very often wrong, because she was basing her thoughts on Austen's feelings and things about statements she made that were very often joking in nature and not meant to be taken seriously. So all in all, though, I enjoyed it. I was crying at the end when Jane Austen passed away, even though, of course, you know that's going to happen, but it's still, I was crying. One thing I did really love seeing in this book, I loved seeing the close nature of the relationship between the Austen siblings. Even when they were all fully grown adults, and they all were living in different places, and travel was difficult at that time, but they were constantly visiting one another and spending time with one another. They were constantly, like, they helped each other whenever they could. Henry's bank failed, and he dragged the whole family through a huge financial mess. And I'm sure there were probably plenty of, heated arguments within the family circle at that time. But they all did support him. They helped him. They did not hold it against him that, they lost money in his bank. And in the end, Jane Austen, in her will, she left him 50 pounds, which was, by that point in his life, had become a lot for him. And it was a lot for her too, actually. So, they sacrificed for each other. And when she died, they were all there, except for her brother James, because he was sick and he died the next year. But he was starting to get sick at the point where she passed away. All of her other brothers and some of her in-laws and her nephew were there, came to Winchester, which wasn't her regular home when she passed away, and they all came to be with her. And the letters that they wrote to each other and how they expressed their sadness at her passing and the ways that they spoke of her so lovingly and with so much pride in her, it was just really beautiful, and that's what made me cry. I really loved seeing that. But it wasn't just the time that she died that they were like that. They really stuck together and supported each other as a family throughout their life, and I really loved that. One other thing, I started Spurgeon and the Psalms this morning as my devotional for the summer, and really enjoyed it. I like the format of this book. It's like a Bible, but it has each reading for the day, which is a psalm and an analysis or a commentary. Each one starts on a new, fresh page on the right side, so that there's a blank side or partially blank side on the left. And there are really wide margins, so it makes it possible for you to write notes in there. So I really like that, and I just wanted to mention that in case anybody is interested in this book, and of course enjoying Charles Spurgeon's commentary on that. So that is my reading thus far. I have a day or two left in this week, and now I am starting my June reading. So what will it be? I don't know. I have 2 buddy reads that I will be commencing soon, if not right now. One is The Secret Keepers of Old Depot Grocery, and the other is Evangeline by Longfellow. And I also need to get started on Mansfield Park, so I can finish that in the month of June and not bring that into July. And those are the main ones that are at the top of the stack. But then I also have Shiloh for the Christian Fiction Reading Challenge, and the Bird one for Chantal's challenge, Reading Yourself Challenge. Those are the other ones that I need to finish in June. So those are the priorities that I get to. So which of those will I pick up next? I don't really know. Right now, I need to go make dinner. So I'll let you know next time I pop on here. Well, we have now arrived at officially my first day of summer break. And it has been a glorious morning. I love this time of year when I am just out of school and it's early summer. Well, it's technically not even summer yet. The weather in the morning is usually just not super hot yet. It will be by the afternoon, but in the morning it's not crazy hot. It's not crazy humid. It's just a lovely, still, quiet, gorgeous morning. And I was able to have my devotions on the deck right here where I'm sitting now and drink my cup of coffee And then I followed that up today with finally finishing planting my annuals, which, yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is now June, 6th? And I am just now finishing up planting my annuals. Life's crazy. I feel like it gets later and later every time. But anyways, it was just so wonderful to be in the quiet of the morning and planting my flowers and just digging in the dirt. And I had the company of a sweet little mama mallard duck in the backyard who was just sitting there and keeping a careful eye on me, but just sitting there enjoying the shade where she was sitting and just having a very relaxing morning herself. And I made her a little apprehensive when I turned on the hose, but she just kind of stood up and kept a wary eye on me, but she kept me company the whole time I was out in the garden. I think she's gone away now. I don't see her. But anyway, that was my first morning of summer break. But I hope that you are enjoying your summer so far as well. And since I got my book stack down to 0, yay, it is time for me to pick up some new books. And I have already picked up not 1, not 2, but 3 books. As I said, I am starting on my buddy reads first. Those are the priority. And the first is Evangeline by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, who was a New England poet. And I really want to read more of his poetry. I remember him as a child. I learned a couple of his poems. I memorized them. But as an adult, I've not read much by him, so I want to read more of his poetry, and I'm starting with Evangeline. And Cheryl at Candlewick Library and I are reading this one. I absolutely loved the nature descriptions in that we read so far, the prologue and the first part of the first section. The first section in part the first. It's divided into 2 parts, and then each part is divided into 5 sections. So we're reading 1 section a day, basically. And I love, love, love this poetic nature descriptions. Let me read the very first stanza. This is the forest primeval, the murmuring pines and the hemlocks, bearded with moss and in garments green, indistinct in the twilight, stand like druids of eld, with voices sad and prophetic, stand like harpers four, with beards that rest on their bosoms. Loud from its rocky caverns, the deep-voiced neighboring ocean speaks, and in accents disconsolate answers the wail of the forest. Really beautiful. And it goes on. He's describing Acadia and the area where the story takes place near Nova Scotia. And it's just, oh my goodness. So absolutely, the setting is just beautiful. And he really puts you in it with his descriptions. Really enjoying that. And then Lauren and I are reading The Secret Keepers of Old Depot Grocery, and we're reading 5 chapters a day. And so I've already read the first 5 chapters and really got sucked into the story right away. It is a multi-generational story. So if you like those, it's 3 generations of women, and there's going to be a lot about their relationship, their individual struggles and trials, and their shared struggles and trials. And I am really looking forward to reading more of it every day. It might be one that's difficult to stick to the 5 chapters a day. We'll see how I feel going into it. Even when I read the first 5 chapters yesterday, I was like, oh, I want to read more. So I'm really enjoying this so far. It's not, I don't think, like a really plot heavy book per se. It's more like, women's fiction examination of their lives and their relationships and their struggles and how they're going to overcome them, hopefully, in the course of this story. And then I picked up Mansfield Park because that is our read for June with the Jane Austen 250th birthday celebration. Let me know in the comments if you are joining us in reading Mansfield Park. I have my annotated version, which I really enjoyed the other annotated versions that I've read. Now that I'm on the 3rd book, some of the annotations are becoming redundant because you know, he's explaining some of the same things over and over again because the same things pop up. It may move a little faster because I won't need to read as many of them, but at the same time, my memory is really bad. So the reminders are helpful of some of the stuff that I don't already, am not already familiar with. But I am enjoying Mansfield Park, of course. I haven't gotten very far yet, but definitely going to be reading this one. The other two, so Evangeline and the Old Depot grocery ones, I should be wrapping up in the next week or so, which is good because it will be nice to not be reading something forever and ever. Mansfield Park will take me most of the month, I think, and I'm already looking forward to getting into some of my other reads that I want to read this month. Enjoy reading June. So I am really looking forward to a solid month of wonderful, wonderful reading. Also, I just want to mention I am working on a secret project that hopefully will take place in the month of August. It's an idea that has been germinating in my mind for a while, like at least a year. It's been like the seed was planted probably about a year ago, and it's just been very slowly being watered, roots taking hold, very slowly forming into an actual project, more than an idea. It's has gotten more substance as time has gone on, and now I think I'm ready to fully flesh it out, but I'm not quite ready to announce it to the world, but I'm really excited about it, and I hope that you will join me in August for this very special reading event. And I will give you a hint. If you are a millennial like me, well, I'm actually technically an exennial, but anyways, I have definitely plenty of Gen X in there as well. But I am a millennial in this sense that in my early preteen years, the internet was invented and became well, I don't know when it was invented, but it became widely available at that point. People started to own personal computers in their house. I learned how to use a personal computer. I went to my friend's house, and in that era, that was part of the inspiration for this reading challenge. So I hope your interest is piqued, and I'm also hoping that in the next week or so I will be able to share all the details and make my announcement about it. So keep your eyes peeled about that. So that is what I have going on right now. I will have one more clip tacked on here at the end of this vlog with an announcement of the winner of my giveaway of the box of goodies from May. So I will have that. I don't have it ready yet, but I will tack that on here to the end. And otherwise, that is the end of this weekly reading vlog. I hope you have had a fantastic week of reading yourself. Let me know in the comments what you're reading and what your thoughts are about what I've been reading and my thoughts about what I've been reading and all of those things. Let's keep the conversation going. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye. One final note, and it's not nighttime actually. It's just a gloomy, rainy kind of day today. So it looks like really dark in this video, but that's the lighting we've got. Anyway, I just wanted to pop up and film one more clip to let you know that Erica, whose username is Vessel for His Use, was the winner of my giveaway that I hosted over on Instagram with the whole box of goodies with the Pride and Prejudice edition and a couple of other fun things in it. She was a winner, so I will be getting that to her as soon as possible. And for June and going forward, the rest of the year, the giveaways that I want to focus on, some of my friends here on BookTube and on Instagram who have books or other products that they sell, book-related products, and I'm going to be giving away some of their items to help highlight some of them and their offerings that they have for everybody. So that is going to be coming up in June, so keep your eyes peeled for that giveaway, and I will sign off for this week, and I will see you next time. Bye!